Okay, is that working now? Alright guys, so I am going to assume this is working. I'm not 100% sure though. This is my first live stream, so thanks for joining me while we try this out. I'm going to try and have a quick look, see if it appears that we are live or not. Alright, cool. It seems to be working, so maybe just assume that it is. Alright guys, so yeah, this is my first time live streaming, like I've said a couple of times now. So I'm not 100% sure on how all this works, but hopefully it's working well. I wanted to try live. I've been meaning to go live for a long time. I've always wanted to try and see if it works and get to grips with it. It looks like a cool feature and I've never used it before, so I thought today or this weekend would be a good opportunity to try it out, because I was planning on going traveling, but there's been tons of heavy rain, which is what I'm going to talk about in this video a little bit. Really bad flooding in South Thailand, and I was planning to go to Krabi, which is in the south, and I don't know if there was actually any flooding in Krabi. However, a few of the areas that I would have had to travel through to get to Krabi definitely were flooded, and I think some of the villages even around where I am, which is in Surat Thani, some of them have also been affected, so it didn't seem like a terribly good idea to go at that time, unfortunately. But yeah, because yeah, I've kind of completed all of the videos pretty much except for one of my videos of my recent travels in Malaysia. So I was hoping to go and get some more travel content to keep uploading to the channel. But obviously with the floods, I wasn't able to. I think I will be able to go next weekend though, because things do seem to have cleared up. And like I said, I'm not going to one of the areas that was really badly affected. But I was worried that I was traveling through some of the areas that might be, so it didn't seem like a good time. Also, the weather was that bad, I don't think I would have been able to take a boat or have gone on any of the trips involving like a sort of small boat really. It was raining that heavily and the beaches probably weren't as picturesque as they would be if it was a clearer day, so hopefully the weather stays reasonably good, because it was pretty bad where I was. In fact, I did make a video about some of the sort of minimal flooding that we had in Surat Thani, which to be honest happens kind of every year here. The rainy season is a few months long, and especially in the south, which is where I am, the rainy season is even longer in the south than it is in the rest of the country. So sometimes, well, not sometimes, pretty much every year we get a lot more rain. And yeah, things do flood, you know. It's kind of a feature of staying in Southeast Asia. I think annually they get the most rainfall anywhere in the world, in Southeast Asia, so Thailand and Malaysia, especially in parts of Cambodia, I think. So yeah, you do get a ton of rain, and it's all in one like season. So obviously I'm from the UK, where there's a lot of rain as well, but it's kind of lesser and it's more prolonged. So you'll have like weeks of sort of small or light rain back home, and I'm from Greater Manchester too, again an area that's sort of famous for its rain. So the grey clouds this week reminded me a lot of being back home, because we had like 2 weeks where it was just grey clouds and heavy rainfall every so often. But yeah, the difference is back home, back in England, you get a period of rainy days and more rainy days, but it's much lighter. Whereas here you get like a whole season of just really heavy rain, and this year it seemed to be particularly bad towards the end. We didn't have too much most of the rainy season, but it really came late this year. But it does seem to have cleared up this weekend, which is nice and looks good. There was also a storm, I think, in the Philippines, which I suppose isn't too far away, and I think some of the effects are from that storm. But yeah, we will look at a few news articles actually, because it was really bad, and I'll talk about that a little bit. I wasn't too sure what to do in this live stream, but I thought we could go through some of kind of the news. Obviously the news out here in Thailand recently has been dominated by the floods. Obviously, like I said I was hoping to do a live from Krabi, but I wasn't able to travel because of said floods, so I thought that might be something we'd talk about for a while. And then also I thought we would talk about kind of, they're not too recent updates on visas, which has happened. So there's been kind of some changes, or sort of, how would I put it? I guess revisions to the visa entries, and not actually the visas, but the visa exemption scheme. Basically, they're trying to stop border runs where you're not going to a different visa and you're just trying to sort of use the visa exemption scheme. Apparently it's due to people sort of abusing the system and working illegally, because visa exemption was extended, and apparently there have been people taking advantage of that. So yeah, we will talk about that also, probably secondly, after speaking a little bit about the floods. So why don't we have a little bit of a look at that? Like I said, the floods were historically bad this past couple of weeks in the south of Thailand specifically. Worst hit was an area called, well, the province Songkhla, and the major city in Songkhla is Hat Yai, or the largest city there. And Hat Yai, the city in Songkhla, looked to be completely underwater. Like there's pictures which we'll have a quick look at, where the water level looked right up to people's first and second floors of their houses. So it was pretty bad. I read somewhere online that it was the worst rainfall, or the most rainfall they've had in over 300 years. So yeah, really, really bad effects it seems to have had down there. So just to give you a little bit of an idea, if we have a look at this article from the Bangkok Post, southern floods take 33 lives, water still rising. And this is actually an article from a few days ago. So this was from the 26th. Actually, the death toll has risen quite a lot since then. In fact, and I believe now the death toll is up to over 100. And because the water level, I believe in a lot of the areas in Hat Yai, the water level has sort of gone back down, but they're still kind of evacuating, still looking for people, still helping and rescuing people. So the rescue efforts and that continue, and I think they're still finding people who've passed, unfortunately. So yeah, it's actually much more than 33 lives now, I believe. But yeah, just to show you some of the pictures that they've published, as you can see here, there's rescue workers in a boat and right up to someone's house. That's kind of the second level. So there were a lot of videos of people like having to sort of escape to the roofs of their buildings and going up to the second floors. Yeah, so it has been really hit, and you can see that the areas listed here. So you've got Surat Thani, where I am. The city Surat wasn't that bad. We didn't really have too much flooding, but the listed here are villages like Kanchanadit. They're a bit outside of the city. Nakhon Si Thammarat, Trang, Patalung, Saturn, Songkhla, which is where it was most of the news is coming from Songkhla, this region, which is the area that had the most rainfall in 300 years. But yeah, this list is basically all of the southern provinces. If we jump over to Google Maps, I was going to show you. So here's a map of Thailand. If we come down to the south, Surat Thani is this sort of province. And I think we were the most northern province hit. Like I said, it wasn't the city, a few villages on the outside. I did see a helicopter go over by, so I did assume that there were some rescue efforts in Surat Thani. But yeah, it's like Surat, Nakhon, just below Surat, Krabi's over here, which is where I was going to go. So we probably have to travel through Nakhon to get there. Why I didn't end up going, but Trang, Songkhla is down here. Saturn was also hit. And basically the remaining sort of southern areas on the border with Malaysia. I think parts of Malaysia also were flooded. But yeah, this is the area where a lot or all the news was coming from. It's the Songkhla province, and the city Hat Yai seemed to be the worst hit here's another sort of news article from the Tiger. Southern Thailand faces widespread flooding. Songkhla governor orders evacuation. Yeah, and then again, just to give you an idea, there's another sort of city view. You can see pretty much the entire city looks underwater. It looks pretty terrifying. So yeah, kind of gloomy news really. But yeah, I just wanted to share that because it is pretty extraordinary, the water levels that we're seeing recently, and the levels of like kind of destruction. I mean, I have no idea how long it'll take to repair all of the city. Hat Yai is a really big city as well. It's one of the biggest cities in the south. So yeah, who knows how much damage and how much time that will take to repair. Yeah, really sad news, especially with the death toll does seem to be quite high as well, and it's still climbing. I don't think they've got to the final numbers yet, which is really sad and scary. Also, yeah, like I said, Hat Yai is one of the bigger cities in the south. So if you're traveling, I think the trains going south pretty much are not going south at the moment. So yeah, if you were planning on getting a train south, you definitely can't go to Hat Yai. That one was shut, and a lot of train services south were cancelled. And the train line goes through Hat Yai. Hat Yai station's right in the city of Hat Yai, which was really badly affected. And that may be a route if you're going to Malaysia from Thailand. A lot of people take the train to Malaysia and it goes through Hat Yai. So if you were planning on doing that, that will almost definitely have been disrupted. So yeah, if you're traveling by train or even bus, I guess, in the south, then definitely check with the operator, because I imagine there's lots of disruptions. I don't know, even if you take a van to Malaysia or a bus to Malaysia, which again, a lot of people do tend to do, it's a great route, fun route. But I would imagine a lot of the time you would go to like Hat Yai bus station and change or something. So I don't know what the bus station's like. I know the train station's been affected. So yeah, definitely check in with that if you had any travel plans, especially in the south currently. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, just one more thing on the floods though. I did read that the Immigration Bureau, let me try that, say that again. I don't know how to pronounce that word correctly. But yeah, Immigration from Thailand did release a statement, and I actually just realised they don't have it. But I'm sure you can find it. But there is going to be like amnesty for visa overstay if you were affected by the floods. So, because there were flights from Hat Yai airport that had to be cancelled. Obviously the trains all got cancelled. I imagine a lot of the buses rerouted or were cancelled. So if those delays are the reason why you are overstaying, or if you had to sort of spend a few extra days you weren't expecting, then you shouldn't be getting fined as long as you were in one of those sort of affected areas and you can sort of show that you had that flight cancelled or train cancelled or what have you. So they do look like they are doing a lot of outreach for even foreigners who were affected and tourists who were being affected by these floods. So that's good news. There was a funny story to come out of out of the tragedy, and I suppose it's good to always look for silver linings or light humour in tragedy. Hopefully it's not in bad taste, but I did see this story on the floods, again on the Tiger's website, of a Malaysian man's affair that was exposed after being stranded with mistress in Hat Yai floods. Yeah, apparently he told his wife that he was going to Kuala Lumpur, the capital of Malaysia, and apparently he told her he was going for business, but then obviously had to sort of confess that he wasn't in Malaysia. He wasn't in Kuala Lumpur at a business meeting. In fact, he'd gone to Hat Yai by the sounds of things to party and got caught up in the floods. So that did amuse me. So I thought I'd share that too. Obviously, pretty tragic events. So always good to see a humorous story come from, because everything else is just really grim. Like the videos of just people stuck and the pets and everything. So yeah, really a sad story about the floods. But like I said, it does seem to have been, the weather seems to have improved, certainly in Surat Thani. I can't speak for anywhere else. I'm in Surat Thani at the moment, and we've had grey clouds and heavy rain for the last 2 weeks, I'd say pretty much non-stop. I've not seen the sun for 2 weeks, and I've never experienced that. Normally it's a few days and then the sunny, and then even if it starts raining again, you usually get a bit of a respite with a sunny day, but nothing for the last 2 weeks, and heavy rain, wind, grey clouds, yeah. But like I said, today's lovely, which is good. It's the weekend, so maybe I would have been okay going to Krabi, but we'll go next weekend hopefully, and there'll be time to travel then, hopefully in better conditions. All right. Sorry guys, yeah, still getting used to the live setup. I hope this is all working correctly. I have no idea. I know it says I'm live on YouTube, so I assume things are running smoothly, but I have no idea. I had to install some extra software so that I could share the screens because I wanted to talk about some of the news. But yeah, I have no idea how it all is working out. Hopefully it's all working fine. Maybe I can have a quick look in a moment. It seems to be recording, which is good. So yeah, we may as well move on to the next story, or the next thing that I wanted to talk about is the changes to the immigration changes. To be honest, it's kind of difficult to describe the changes that have happened, because some of these kind of restrictions were kind of in place, but they weren't sort of clearly defined, and they've changed over the past few years, and there was a little bit of sort of confusion. And I think visa exemption has always been a little bit of a tricky, or a little bit of a grey area. If we have to describe what visa exemption is, if you come to Thailand and you're coming for a holiday, you don't really need a visa if you're from a lot of European, Western, South American, Asian countries. There's a visa exemption scheme, which is what it says on the tin. It means you're exempt from needing a visa to enter Thailand for a certain amount of days. So when I first came to Thailand, visa exemption was for 30 days, and you could extend it a further 30 days as long as that was accepted by a local immigration officer. Recently, it got extended so that you were just given 60 days. So if you turned up and you were from a country that had visa exemption, you would get a stamp for 60 days now, I think. So yeah, and apparently you could also extend that a further 30 days, giving you potential 3 months stay in Thailand, visa exempt, if you were from one of the qualifying countries. And you could also prove that you were visiting for the purposes of tourism. So more recently, when you board a flight to Thailand, you're most airlines these days, I think, and it happened to me when I last flew in, they do want to see a return flight booked before you even get on the plane. And as well, when you get to the immigration in Thailand, they will probably or may ask you for that proof too. Now, if you have a longer term visa, then you shouldn't need to, but you may need to show that you have a visa for different purposes, because obviously this is like a requirement specifically for visa exemption schemes. If you're applying for them, you'll need to show proof of onward travel. Because again, this was always a scheme just for tourists. It wasn't for anything else, it was just for tourism. It's to make things smoother for tourists. Obviously tourism is a massive sector in the Thai economy, so they want to make things as smooth as possible for tourists, and why wouldn't they? It's a good idea. So visa exemption has always been a useful thing. That being said, it does get abused, and it's also like there are people who obviously turn up to visa exemption, find work illegally, and sort of stay in the country through visa exemption and work, right? So that's clearly not allowed. What's less clearly defined is people who perhaps are like, maybe they're older, maybe they don't need to work anymore, maybe they want to stay in Thailand for 3 or 4 months, and maybe they can then use visa exemption, maybe they come 2 or 3 times. So is that allowed, right? And some people may want to like travel for a long time in Southeast Asia, maybe they want to go out of Thailand and then come back, stay for a prolonged period, and do what some people call visa runs, which is where you go to the border and then come back. Now, there are legitimate reasons to have to do a visa run or to go to a border, stay in the country. Maybe you need to apply for a different visa. So, for example, I've had to do it before. When I was working as a teacher in a school in Thailand, and I wanted to change to move to a different school, I wasn't able to get everything, or the two schools weren't in communication well enough to be able to just transfer my work permit. So basically my visa got cancelled, I had to leave, and I had to go and find other visa arrangements. Now, with visa exemption, I kind of thought I could just come back in, move, communicate with the school, then I'd have to leave again and apply for the working visa once again. However, when I did try to do that, I got pulled aside at the airport and questioned for some time. So I had assumed it was like kind of just a free visa. And I think a lot of people do. When I first came to Thailand, that is, obviously I learned better than that. But yeah, it is a little bit unclear. Obviously, like if you're not working, then you are technically in the kingdom as a tourist. But yeah, you're not, basically what they're clamping down on now is people who would do that for 3 or 4 times per year and just try and make Thailand their base. But that kind of has always not been allowed, to be honest. I don't know what changed. I think the extension of the visa exemption from 30 days to 60 days with like people sort of found it as a viable option to sort of stay in country. But if you're here for any other reason than just a holiday, then you do need to have a different type of visa, right? If you work online and you want to stay in Thailand, then perhaps, well, definitely you should be on the DTV, the Destination Thailand visa, which is set up for remote workers. You shouldn't be using the visa exemption scheme and then living as a remote worker. You should be on the appropriate visa. If you want to retire in Thailand, there's a retirement visa, or the non-immigrant O, that you can get extended for the purposes of retirement. So you should be on that one. But a lot of people who perhaps were kind of retired and just wanted to spend large amounts of the year in Thailand could just use visa exemption, which is kind of easier. And again, because it was kind of a grey area. So I think really the changes are just more clarity, which I'm actually not against. I think it's a good idea to have like sort of the rules, as long as the rules are sort of presented and given out. Because again, a lot of borders have their own rules. So certain borders are more tricky. Certain borders are less used to sort of frequent traffic. However, some borders, there are legitimate reasons why they would have people crossing in the same day, perhaps, you know. So yeah, I think the thought process and the changes are supposed to be clarity on that topic. And again, I don't think everything's officially been released yet on this. I actually found it difficult to find sort of like the specific details online. If we have a look at the Bangkok Post, all I could find was this article about the immigration police target visitors making multiple visa runs. And in this article it says, immigration police are focusing on blocking foreigners, especially scammers who do visa runs to extend their stay in Thailand by abusing the government's visa-free entry scheme. These foreigners do not visit Thailand for tourism. Many of them work or operate business with Thai nominees as their front, and they use the visa-free scheme to avoid official visa requests before traveling. So yeah, again, they don't go into too much detail. And this is an interesting point as well. Like, this is a key factor, right? Genuine tourists in Thailand typically don't spend more than 15 days in Thailand. If you're coming just for a holiday, most people are in holiday for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe max. So having that visa exemption go all the way to 60 days may be a bit excessive if it's just for tourists, because the majority of tourists just come for 30 days. However, you do have like backpackers who maybe like want to stay in Thailand for 3 months, which again isn't necessarily bad, and I think that's what they were trying to encourage. However, I'm not sure that many people do. A lot of people will sort of bounce around rather than just stay in one country for 3 months if they're a backpacker, I think. Obviously this is me kind of guessing, but I think that's kind of the issue, and that's kind of what they're trying to resolve with that. So yeah, if we go to the Tiger, again, I wasn't able to find too much, but it just says Thailand tightens visa rules to curb abuse by repeat visitors. Again, they're saying that it's hopefully it's basically, I think the main thing they're trying to stop is sort of visa runs, which again, it depends what you mean by visa run, right? If by visa run you mean you're leaving Thailand, going to a country or your home country that has a Thai embassy, and you're going to apply for a different type of visa or a more appropriate visa or the correct visa for your next visit, then you apply, get accepted, get that visa and then return. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. However, there are people like they said who travel down and then try and come straight back through and just get another visa exemption. So I think that's what they're really trying to kick out, because again, I think there was a little bit of confusion around that. In fact, I actually saw a famous YouTuber, I won't say their name because they deleted the video afterwards, but they were traveling to Thailand and they'd been a few times, and this was before these recent changes, and one of them got pulled aside because they'd been in and out, and they said on the video, you get free visa exemption. They didn't really understand the rules. So I'm not at all against kind of more clarity around the visa exemption scheme, because again, it's sort of sold or sort of could be read as just sort of a free visa for X amount of time. But I think it's good to have a cap, because I'm sure it used to be that you could only do 2 per calendar year. And I think that's what they're going back to. Like I said, I couldn't actually find an official post on that where it said the actual kind of how many times you'll be able to do this per year and so on. I did see a good post by Richard Barrow on his Facebook page. Hopefully he doesn't mind me showing that on my YouTube channel. But yeah, Richard's a pretty cool journalist in Thailand, and posts a lot of often correct information. So he's done this breakdown, which he said is kind of the sort of 4 main changes. So number 1, elevate and intensify the screening of individuals frequently using the visa exempt scheme, free visa, which is what it often gets called, for entry and exit in and out in the manner of a visa run without returning to their country of domicile. If any individual uses the visa run privilege more than 2 times without justifiable reason, Immigration Bureau will consider denying entry to prevent the use of this opportunity. So again, I think what they mean is 2 times, like kind of per calendar year. Again, I'm sure that's what it used to be. I think the sort of rules were relaxed a little bit to kind of encourage tourism post-COVID, I think. But again, I think they're kind of like trying to tighten that back up, or at least clarify what is supposed to be or best understood. So I think you're only really allowed to do that twice per year, which is what I thought you were always allowed to do. However, it's good that there is some clarity if that's what the rule now is. But yeah, so it's basically if you want to stay in Thailand visa exempt, you can do it sort of twice per calendar year, and after that it will be kind of treated as suspicious and as you're not really here for the purposes of tourism necessarily. And again, there's a lot of good visas for lots of different situations, so there's probably a more appropriate visa if you do need to use visa exemption twice per year anyway. Like I said, there's the DTV, the Destination Thailand visa, which is good for remote workers and people who are actually, you can apply for it for a whole bunch of reasons. You could do it, Thai language learning is now, you could do the education visa or the DTV visa, depending on how you want to do that. You can do Thai soft powers, which I think is kind of like studying Muay Thai, maybe even Thai cooking and other sort of cultural studies in Thailand. And you can do it for medical reasons as well. And obviously remote workers can also apply through the DTV. There's a retirement visa, obviously, if you're retired. If you have Thai family, you've got the non-immigrant O visa. So again, if you do want to spend like large portions per year in Thailand, then there's probably much better visa options anyway. It's just they're a little bit more challenging, I suppose, the application process for them. But yeah, that's number 1. And emphasize the interception of foreign nationals who have a history recorded in the watch list system. Again, I think this is another sort of reason. There has been some news surrounding kind of some of the like scam factories in neighboring countries to Thailand. Obviously, the people operating and perhaps involved in organised crime in those countries maybe are abusing the system too. So that's probably one of the other factors why they've had this like kind of public announcement. And yeah, they're also going to crack down on overstays on the visa too. But yeah, like I said, I kind of expect there to be more, and maybe like an official decree soon, hopefully, that clarifies all those points. I did want to make like a standalone video talking about this. Obviously on my channel I do talk about visas quite a bit, especially for Thailand. But again, I couldn't quite get all the information just yet. So I think it makes a good idea talking about it on live, maybe making a sort of standalone video once there's more clarity around that. I think the main thing for tourists that they're trying to stop is the visa runs, is the sort of border bouncing, just going out for a day, trying to come back the same day, which many borders won't allow you to do anyway. If you go to Malaysia and try and cross and come back, you've never been able to do that. Some of the other borders were a little bit more lenient, but that was kind of due to more specific reasons, like, for example, gambling is illegal in Thailand, but legal in Cambodia and Laos, I believe, and there are some casinos there, so some people would go over the border, maybe spend the evening in the casino, want to come back. So some of the borders were kind of more porous, but I think that won't be the case soon. I think if you do want to leave and come back, you'll have to make sure that you have at least a visa. And I don't think this will affect anyone who has like an actual visa as well. This is people who are using the visa exemption scheme. So if you do have a visa, then I don't think there's any changes here. It is perhaps just a crackdown and reinforcing and clarification of the rules surrounding the visa exemption, which again probably is a good thing after all. But yeah, visa runs may be a thing of the past, but we'll see. We'll see. There should be more news coming out about that, I suspect. So yeah, that is pretty much all of the news that I wanted to discuss with you guys. I noticed I had a question in the chat. Sorry, I wasn't paying a great deal of attention to the chat box. My apologies about that. But yeah, I am on the DTV visa. Yeah, and that's how I stay in Thailand. I used to be a teacher. I was a teacher for a number of years. Now I'm on the destination Thailand visa, and I work remotely from Thailand. So yeah, that's how I stay here. It's a really good visa as well. If you're considering visas, definitely recommend you check out the destination Thailand visa again, because it does seem like visa exemption is definitely going to be more scrutinized, which again I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, to be honest. So yeah, definitely make sure you've got the correct visa. I did have some interesting questions this week, I think, on some of my videos. Yeah, someone asked me an interesting question, which I'll have to look into a little bit more on one of my videos about teaching in Thailand, about can they work online sort of after school hours, which it's actually a bit of a legal grey area, to be honest, because if you're working in a Thai school, you'll be on a non-immigrant B visa, which is for the purposes of working in Thailand. That permits you to work in Thailand legally at a school or for a Thai company, as long as it's in one of the non-restricted industries. Working online, again, is kind of as long as it's a company that's not based in Thailand and doesn't have Thai students, it may be okay. However, it is a little bit of a tricky question to answer that. I'm not sure how to answer that one. So yeah, apologies for that. I've not really responded to that one. Yeah, we did get questions about the work permit. Also, that's another, just in case anyone is considering working, having the correct visa isn't enough on its own to allow you to work legally. You also need to apply for the work permit. Now, usually the company that you're working with, they will help you in the application for the work permit. That's pretty standard procedure, but yeah, just so you know, like, if you need to be on the correct visa type. So there's a few different visas. You could have the non-immigrant B, the non-immigrant O visa. You can legally work as long as you also have a work permit. So you do have to apply for a work permit as well. And that's again to work for a Thai company in Thailand. If you work online, then you want to go and apply for a DTV, the Destination Thailand visa, because you can apply for that as a remote worker. But again, that restricts you to working only for companies outside of Thailand. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think it's obviously like the world's changing a little bit when it comes to work. But yeah, that's basically all I had for this live session. Yeah, thanks again for watching me. This was my first live. Like I said, I was planning on going to Krabi. Hopefully we'll be able to get there next week and I'll be able to continue with the travel content. But yeah, it was cool doing a live stream today. So yeah, thanks guys for watching, and I'll definitely be doing this again. I quite enjoyed going live, so hopefully I'll see you guys again next time. All right.